Chaos has erupted inside the Republican Party. Donald Trump's latest push to end birthright citizenship is no longer just a fight against Democrats. It's basically becoming a major battle inside the Republican Party itself. That's a chaos. Now, Republican lawmakers are now absolutely divided. Basically, some are standing firmly behind Trump's plan. Others are warning it could become one of the hardest political fights Congress has ever faced this year. Now, some believe Congress should move immediately. But on the other hand, others, they say, proposal has almost no chance of becoming law that consumes valuable time while other major legislation is waiting on the other hand. Instead of presenting a united front, Republicans are now debating strategy, the Constitution, whether Trump's plan is even politically achievable or not. And that's exactly why this issue is creating one of the biggest headache Republican leaders have ever faced in months. So what is really happening behind the closed doors in Washington? Let me break this down. Why Republicans suddenly divided over one of Donald Trump's biggest immigration promises. Why? And probably this could be political fight reshape the immigration debate heading into the next election. Donald Trump has made immigration one of the biggest priorities of his presidency, as we all know from his campaigns. Now, for years, he argued that birthright citizenship encourages illegal immigration and that system should be changed totally. Recently, after the Supreme Court narrowed the use of nationwide injunction against the executive order, Trump's allies saw an opportunity to push the issue much harder. But instead of celebrating together, Republicans suddenly found themselves in a very weird situation, arguing with each other, basically. So that disagreement isn't really about whether immigration should be together or not. The disagreement is basically all about how to actually make it happen. That's the biggest chaos running right now in the White House. So one group of the Republicans believes Congress should immediately pass new legislation that limits birthright citizenship. Several Donald Trump's allies have already introduced bills on bills. Now, one proposal would stop automatic citizenship for children whose parents are in the United States of America illegally. But on the other hand, another proposal would require at least one parent to be American citizen, a lawful permanent resident, or probably serving in the U.S. military for automatic citizenship is granted. Now, supporters of Donald Trump, they will argue that the current system has been abused for years and years. They will believe Congress has the authority to change how the law is applied on this. To them, this is exactly what voters elected Republicans to do. But another group of Republicans is so far more cautious about this. They aren't necessarily rejecting Donald Trump's goal. Instead, they are questioning whether this strategy can actually succeed or not. Now, some lawmakers point out that any law passed by Congress would almost certainly face immediate legal challenges. Now, others, they believe changing birthright citizenship would ultimately require changing the Constitution itself totally. It's a big challenge right here. And that's where the political reality becomes incredibly difficult and super hard. Changing the Constitution isn't just like passing an ordinary law. No. It requires overwhelmingly support in Congress and approval from most states. So in today's political environment, many Republicans admit that's an extremely difficult task to complete. That has created a serious problem for Republicans' leadership and even for Donald Trump now. Now, Senate leaders now have to decide whether they should spend valuable time pushing legislation that may never receive enough support. They're thinking about this. On the other hand, Congress already has major issues waiting on the table, like government funding. It's a big thing. Defense legislation because of crazy things going on. Budget negotiations, other immigration measures. They really have to resolve the problem. Some Republicans worry about the focusing so heavily on birthright citizenship could slow down every single thing what they have to resolve. That's why this thing is becoming so intense behind the closed doors. Donald Trump's closest ally, however, aren't backing down. Now, they believe immigration remains one of the strongest political issues for Republicans because they really want to nail it, but they're not able to. Their message is just straightforward. Basically, if Republicans promise stronger border security and immigration reform, then Congress should act now. Even if the fight becomes so difficult, even if the courts become involved again and again, they argue basically that waiting only delays promises made to voters. On the other hand, the critics inside the Republican Party see the things absolutely different. Some lawmakers say they agree with stronger immigration enforcement. They do that. But they believe Congress should focus on proposals that actually help a realistic chance of becoming law. Now, they argue that spending months debating legislation that may never pass could hurt Republicans politically, but some even believe it could distract attention from other priorities totally. Now, so while both sides may agree on the border immigration issue, they deeply divided over this strategy. So this disagreement is now creating a lot of issue, growing tension to the inside Republican Party itself. And they are basically messed up here. Some Republican senators have openly expressed so heavy skepticisms. Now, others, they continue introducing the new legislation on the other hand. Leadership is being forced to balance pressure from Donald Trump, pressure from conservative lawmakers, and the practical realities of passing legislation through Congress. It's basically becoming a political balancing act. No matter which direction leaders choose, someone basically inside the party is likely to be very unhappy with this, what's really happening inside the party. So another reason this debate has become so controversial, because it goes beyond the ordinary politics, as we all know that. Birthright citizenship is tied to 14th Amendment of the US Constitutions. That's a huge thing there. For generations, court have interrupted that amendment to provide citizenship who almost everyone born on the American soil. Supporters of Donald Trump's positions argue that this interpretation has been expanded far beyond what the amendment originally intended. But on the other hand, opponents, they will argue Constitutions has already been settled for this issue for decades, and changing that interpretation would create enormous legal uncertainty. That's why legal experts expect any major change would probably almost certainly return to the courts, meaning if Congress acts, the legal battle may only be the beginning of a huge problem. Politically, this issue could become one of the biggest and the hardest campaign themes heading towards the next election for Donald Trump. Donald Trump has repeatedly made immigration central to his message. Many of his supporters want immediate action, but the reality is super hard. Democrats strongly oppose changing birthright citizenship totally, but now Republicans themselves are debating the best path forward between themselves to resolve this. That internal disagreement is exactly why this issue has become much like a major political story inside them. This isn't simply about Republican versus Democrats anymore. It's basically about Republicans debating Republicans fighting between each other. Now, so where does this all go from here? At the moment, nobody really knows the right answer. Donald Trump's allies are pushing aggressively for Congress to act on it, but other Republicans remain very skeptical about whether the legislation can survive politically, legally, or constitutionally. So that means one of Donald Trump's biggest immigration priority is now creating one of the biggest internal battle inside his own party. And until Republican leaders decide which direction they want to take, this thing is likely to become even louder and louder, even more decisive, even more important in Washington. Now, the battle over birthright citizenship has only just begun right now. So let me know in the comments below, what do you think? What's really happening? Is this going to get solved or is it not going to get solved? Is it really possible to change, or should America really change this or not? Or because America basically was built everything on immigration. Thank you. See you in the next video. And subscribe for more and more important updates.